It's Thursday, September 23rd, 2021. I want to start today by reflecting on an article I was reading earlier today on Egan von Grier's website. And I want to relate it to what we just witnessed take place today in these markets. Investment markets today are all about instant gratification and getting rich quick. They have supercharged the stock market. Don't forget SPAC stocks, known as blank check companies. Let's not forget zombie companies. Don't forget cryptos. $1 billion they were valued at 8 years ago. Today, cryptos are valued at $2 trillion. Illusions cannot rescue the economy. Fake money and empty promises cannot repay the debt. Remember the crash of 1929? We saw the Dow Jones lose 90% of its value. It took 25 years for the Dow to get back above the 1929 high. Now, I know people say that could never happen again. They've put in preventive measures so it could never happen again. That's a bunch of baloney. It can happen. Today, 92 years later, that peak, the debt, the deficits, and asset bubbles are far greater than at the end of the 1920s. Watching these markets today, up across the board, Dow Jones, I think, closed up 506 points. But this is what's so alarming, is some of the news we got today. And again, we're hearing nothing about Evergrande over in China, but what we did hear were weekly jobless claims. They came in at 351,000, worse than expected. They were expecting 320,000, yet I'm watching the Dow Jones soar at around 600 points at one point, closing up over 500 points. I mean, this is absurd. This is absolutely unimaginable to think that we have markets going up when another 351,000 Americans filed first-time jobless claims last week. And my question is this: we have all these people coming over. I'm watching the news today. We got people from all over the place coming to America. How in the world are we going to support all of this? How are these people going to support themselves? We have people coming over, many, no educations, no skill set, and they're going to need jobs. And we just lost another 351,000 jobs last week. And this has been going on, 300,000+ jobs per week for what, a year and 8 months? I don't even know. I've lost track. And yet the Fed comes out yesterday and tells us unemployment is only 4.8%. This is very, very concerning, ladies and gentlemen. And the manipulation that we're watching in these markets, it's really scary, because at some point this is no longer going to be sustainable. And it is going to blow up. There's no doubt about it. The hedge today: spike in California jobless, sparks surge in Americans applying for first-time unemployment benefits. Right here in California, last week we lost about 23,000 jobs right here in California. How about this? U.S. services PMI plunges to 14-month low as input prices soar. There's more good news, right? Somebody wrote me last night and says, "Oh, this is just more fear-mongering." There's lots of good news out there. Well, to that individual, please share the good news with us, because I'm not seeing too much of it. What I'm seeing is news telling me that that there's something very, very wrong here. 2 + 2 is not equaling 4. Okay, there is no way in the real world. But we're not in the real world. We're in the twilight zone here, where we're losing this many jobs. We have Asia on the verge of collapse. Services PMI plunges to 14-month low, and the Dow Jones is up over 500 points today. How about chip shortages expected to cost auto industry $210 billion in revenue in 2021? I guess that doesn't affect these markets, does it? That's on CNBC today. Dow Jones soaring on the news of this chip shortage, expected to cost the auto industry in excess of $210 billion in 2021. It's unbelievable. It is really unbelievable. Costco warns customers over delays on essential household items. Why are so many people beginning to stockpile goods again? I guess not everyone is asleep. There's people like you, and there's people like me, and we know exactly how this movie ends. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm watching this morning, and I cannot believe my eyes with what is taking place. This should really scare you. This is the time right now that you better be getting a little bit nervous, because something is very wrong here. What is causing these markets to go up? Who's buying into these markets? Apparently the Fed is buying probably a lot more than we think it is. The $3.5 trillion budget plan is gaining more steam. Looks like it's going to possibly get approved. I don't know, but they're saying the markets were riding on that news today, that another $3.5 trillion will be injected into these markets, into the economy, and into heaven knows what. But these markets love money printing. They love more debt. And we are really, really headed into some dangerous times here, ladies and gentlemen. Household net worth rises above $141 trillion, but debt up sharply as well. Household debt is up nearly 8%. And when we look at this household net worth, you and I all know why it's rising, right? Because home prices have risen so much. And to me, this housing market is a ticking time bomb, and you're going to see people's net worth, you're going to see their wealth absolutely vaporized when they pull the plug on this housing market, this bubble burst. Whatever leads to the housing bubble popping, it could be an array of things, but it is going to burst. There's no doubt about it. And when it does, household net worth is not going to be $141 trillion. We're going to see people absolutely vaporize. It's going to be catastrophic when the housing market goes. It's going to be catastrophic when the stock market goes. We're going to pay a big price here for days like today, when we see the stock market up over 500 points. We're going to pay a price for all this. We really are. Wolfstreet.com. Home sales fall from a year ago. Prices down for a second month. Single-family homes fell 2% in August, and condo sales fell 2.8% in August from July. We are beginning to watch the cooling of this housing market. Price reductions increased for the 6th month in a row, jumping in August by 9.5%. Supply of unsold homes on the market remain at 2.6 months, up from the low of 1.9 months in December and in January. So inventory is beginning to creep up. Prices we're going to start seeing begin to come down, and price reductions now. We're witnessing price reductions now increasing for 6 months in a row. So what does all this mean? Well, it means that the housing market is cooling off, but we are going to see not just a correction in housing, we're going to see a collapse in housing. This is nothing right now. And for me, I'm holding off, as I've said in the past. I'm going to wait till 2022 to make a purchase. I cannot buy in a bubble, and we are right now in a bubble, even though it is cooling down. I truly believe we're going to see wreckage, carnage in the housing market, and so many people are going to regret that they jumped into this feeding frenzy in the housing bubble, in this housing market. You know, too many people listen to too many of these real estate agents out there. Many of them really talked people into this and talked these people into the biggest housing bubble of all time. And I continue to see some of these agents on social media. I hope that they continue to talk to their clients when this bubble bursts, because they're going to want answers of why you told them to buy in the biggest housing bubble in history. America's richest 400 families pay a lower tax rate than the average taxpayer. They paid an average of 8.2% federal income tax rate last year. And did you land up paying an 8.2% federal income tax last year? I didn't. And why do these people get the breaks? How come they're at the very top of the pyramid getting the opportunity, getting all the free money, and the people down below are getting absolutely no help? And the middle class is being decimated as I speak. And it's really, really sad. But remember, these wealthy families, the richest 400, the 1%, the top 0.0001%, these people are not going to be paying this $3.5 trillion budget plan. You know who's going to pay for it. You're going to pay for it. And nobody yet has told us how it's going to be paid for. But you can bet, and you know this, you can bet that you're going to pay for it, I'm going to pay for it, that taxes are going to go up across the board, except for these people. These people, they're not going to pay any more in taxes. They can afford the loopholes. They can afford the attorneys. They get completely around it. We don't. And when are we going to ever see a fair playing field in America? Maybe never, because there's never been more wealth inequality, more opportunity inequality than we're seeing here in America. And it's so sad because we now have such a separation between, the 1% and the rest of us. And people are really, really hurting out here. I continue to see more homeless. There's more people in need of food. These food banks don't know how they're going to feed all these people because they're not receiving the donations that they once did. And the population of homelessness in America is surging. And we now have not heard anything about the rental evictions, what's happening, how many people are being evicted right now, how many people are hitting the streets, what's happening. We don't hear anything about it. It's absolutely amazing. Again, I didn't hear anything about China today. I'm hearing nothing about the rental evictions. All I hear is how great the stock market is doing. And I'm sure that people will write me today and they're going to tell me that stop the fear mongering, don't be negative, things are doing great because the Dow Jones is up over 500 points. And these are the same people that have absolutely no money saved up. They have no food, no security. They're doing absolutely nothing but waiting for a check to show up. And these are the same people that believe everything is okay. This is the lunacy of the whole thing, is the people that are in the worst shape believe everything is okay. That's the most alarming thing. Is you talk to people who are jobless, who are waiting on a check, who believe that everything's going to be okay in a couple months, and they're going to the store and that check is going, it's not stretching as far as it did a week ago. And these people all believe everything's okay because they watch the television and the Dow Jones is up over 500 points today. So it's just pure insanity what is taking place. The hedge today: Norway becomes first developed central bank to hike rates post-health crisis. The economy is normalizing in Norway, so they are beginning to normalize the policy rate. Another one, they said, will be coming in December, according to their central bank. So why are we not raising rates here? Well, it's an easy answer, because there's no normalcy, and there is going to be no normalcy for a very, very long time. Somebody said yesterday, I was watching a show, and they're saying, well, the Fed isn't to blame for any of this. Maybe if the Fed would have raised rates 10 or 12 years ago, that might have maybe prevented a little bit of the problems that we're seeing today. But to literally have 0% interest rates for over a decade, that's a problem. Maybe they should have tightened up on all of this helicopter money, all this debt creation. Maybe they could have prevented a lot of this pain. I was watching a show yesterday, and really this guy is putting no blame on the Fed whatsoever. But why is it the banks can borrow money for absolutely nothing, but your credit card interest rate is 21%? Why, if money is so cheap, why is the savings not being passed on to you or I? It's just unbelievable. And to come out and say that the Fed has no responsibility on what's going on, they're not only creating this problem, they're throwing gasoline on the fire. They're allowing it to limp along even farther because nobody wants to be the bad guy. Nobody wants to put an end to the music. And article yesterday, Fed forecasts higher unemployment, worse inflation, and lower growth. You know, I don't know, you listened to them a year ago. They wanted more inflation. There wasn't enough. Things were growing. Unemployment was low. I mean, they change their tune every other day. I mean, if I had $1 for every time they told a lie, I'd be a multimillionaire. And these people who believe, well, the Fed's not going to raise rates to 2023 because they said so, and they might raise it in 2022 one time because they said so. If we get into a bad enough situation, if this inflation gets out of control, which they've helped to create, guess what? They're gonna change their tune again and say, hey, we're gonna have to raise rates, and we may have to raise rates 3-4 times, this year, that year, whatever. These entities lie to us on a daily basis, and the answer, their solution to the mess that they've got us into is to continue to print more money. The same reason we got into this mess is because of all this money printing. And the solution is to print more money and create more debt. That's going to fix it. That's why we're here. These banks are the biggest criminals in the world, ladies and gentlemen. And when you look at how much net worth is in housing, in this real estate bubble, this is where you're really going to see the wealth transfer take place. And I don't give financial advice, but I've shared with many of you, I'm looking, to move to Kentucky next year and buy a ranch. And I'm very tempted to do it this year, but I can't because of this bubble. There's just no way I can buy into this bubble. So I'm going to be patient. Look, I could be totally wrong. Don't take my advice. I'm just sharing with you what I'm doing. I could be totally wrong, but I believe that this bubble is so close to bursting, and so I'm gonna be patient, and I'm gonna see how this all plays out as we head into 2022. And I cannot wait to get out of the state of California. It is so sad what has happened here, and and it's unfortunate to say I will not miss it. I've had some great memories here and met some great people and had some great times. But I'm not going to miss it. They've destroyed this state. This is not the same California I moved to back in the 80s. So I'm going to leave it there today. Again, the magic tricks continue, the fraud, the recklessness, and so many people are going to be duped in to this casino because they believe it is never going to end. And what's so scary is this does remind you of 29. Where things just continued to just surge, and boom, it just hit. And it just seems like things surge even more right before things collapse. And I'm not saying things are going to collapse tomorrow or next week, but look, they're going to print a lot more money, and this thing is going to continue to soar. And the Ponzi schemes are going to continue. And I know people are going to tell me, oh, Bitcoin's up $1,500 today. Gold and silver got hammered. That's okay. I will back up the truck and buy more real assets because I just watched a small crisis forming in China, which could lead into a big crisis. But just with a little bit of smoke in China, you saw exactly what happened to the cryptos. They were literally collapsing. So that tells me that when we see real trouble here in America, people aren't going to be running to cryptos. People are going to be running to real assets, real money like gold, like silver. So I'll leave it there. Have a wonderful day. It's just, I'm speechless, ladies and gentlemen. When I see days like this, it scares me. It really, really scares me with what they're doing. They are taking this to such a level. And the longer it goes on, the worse it is going to be when the day of reckoning comes. Prepare for it, ladies and gentlemen, because it's getting closer.